All right. Hello, everyone. I'll just give it a few minutes as before we start. I see more and more people coming in. Thanks for coming, joining today. Just gonna wait for a couple of 1 or 2 minutes. All right. I see more and more people coming to joining our session. I think I just want to give it a start. Good afternoon and good morning and good evening if you are joining from different time zones. So welcome to today's webinar. So Own Your Product Footprint, the Business Case for Suppliers. My name is Kimberly. I'm a part of the Ecochain team as an account executive. I'm a host today for today's webinar discussion. So Scope 3 emission has always been a highly relevant topic in the sustainability strategy. So either you are a B2B supplier or a B2C company is seeking effective approaches to initiate your product impact assessment, looking for a way to take the ownership of the product footprint. I hope today's discussion will showcase experience from Unilever and Ecochain, how we work with the suppliers toward emission reduction and empower the suppliers on their product carbon footprint journey. A short introduction from our speakers today. Today we have Dr. Pratik. Pratik is a seasoned sustainability leader with over a decade with an expertise in LCA and circular economy innovations across Europe and Asia. He brings a deep technical insights and strategic vision to help organizations navigating complex environmental challenges. Pratik is also, he has led cross-functional teams and guided leaders in designing and executing impactful Scope 1 to 3 carbon reduction programs. So to ensure those compliance with global standards like a CSRD, CBAM, or GSG protocol. Another speaker of today is Thiago Freitas. Thiago is working in Unilever as a procurement PMO for a supplier climate program. With over decades of experience in Unilever, Thiago is dedicated to driving sustainability and innovation in procurement. With a strong technical background, Thiago is instrumental in coordinating governance with the stakeholders and monitoring the program metrics in sustainability. So really happy to have them both to as our main speaker today to share the insights and during the session. We will share some topics from across the value chain covering several different topics. The business value of a product footprint with the real examples. For example, how suppliers are turning PCF to cost saving and winning businesses. Or product, how to the process, how to get started. So what buyers expected and how suppliers can act now. The tools and support to level the playing field. So collaborating and the role of the digital platform nowadays. And then what is next? How to stay ahead of the regulations and the buyer expectations. Before I get started, I just want to tell you something like, for example, if you have some questions, please save your questions in our Q&A sessions. You can dedicate it to those questions to any of the speakers you want to ask the question to. Or if you have any general thoughts, any comments during the session, please feel welcome to put it into the chat. The session will be recorded, and after the session, you will receive it in your inbox. Okay. Just some quick introduction about Ecochain. So the next slide, yes. Ecochain is a software provider for LCA, so life cycle assessment solutions. Our headquarters is located in Amsterdam, Netherlands. We have been working with suppliers, manufacturers, or product companies for the past 14 years and have been active in construction sectors, expanded to consumer goods, electronics, food and beverage, medical, and many more. Basically, we help those suppliers to get environmental impact data to the clients and to meet the regulatory requirements. So our mission is really to empower the non-expert business users to own their PCF or LCA data, get ready to the customer's need. We do that from a software solution as well as a full house environmental specialist to support our clients. In the past 3 years, we have been working with Unilever suppliers to develop their PCF capability according to the PACT framework and deliver this result with 100% of acceptance by Unilever. In this journey, the suppliers learn to calculate the model and the product carbon footprint, finding out the emission hotspot, and get to work on these strategic reduction scenarios from specific product to extensive production. And now, Thiago, I will let you briefly introduce yourself and Unilever this part.
Cool. Thanks, Kim. So, hi everyone. I'm Thiago Freitas. I'm the PMO for the Supplier Climate Program at Unilever. I have a background in procurement and finance, and I've spent the last year and a half working closely with our sustainability team and our suppliers to help them understand, measure, and reduce their carbon footprint. You can see here at Unilever, we've set some ambitious goals, and it is to reach net zero by 2039. But to get there, we also have a near-term science-based target that's been approved by the SBTi. So by 2030, we aim to reduce our Scope 1 and 2 emissions by 100%, and then our Scope 3 emissions by 42% for industrial and energy, and also 30.3% for flag emissions, both by 2030 based on a 2021 baseline. If we go to the next slides, we can see that these targets are bold, but we cannot do this alone. Most of our emissions a big chunk of them are sitting in raw impact materials. So in fact, I think it's over 60% there, which makes a collaboration between us and suppliers absolutely critical. And in the next slide, you'll see that to tackle that, we have set some priority programs focusing on driving emissions reductions. And these are not just initiatives, these are Unilever's key action areas and where we believe we can generate the greatest impact. The Supplier Climate Program, as you can see, it's the first one, and it is the biggest lever to contribute to this decarbonization target. This is all laid out in our climate transition action plan that's available online at unilever.com. If you go to the next slide, I'll just dive deep into the Supplier Climate Program briefly to touch on what is our Scope 3 engagement program. It is designed to drive action across our supply chain. It started with a pilot in 2022 with a few amount of suppliers. And in 2024, last year, we scaled it up to our top 300 suppliers, where we achieved a engagement rate of about 70% and received over 700 PCF data points. So it was a very successful year for the Supplier Climate Program. In the program itself, we categorize our suppliers into 3 categories, so based on their climate maturity, and we try to meet them where they are in their climate journey. So depending on the category, we provide them with different tools and support. And we always make sure that our ask is industry aligned and not bespoke to Unilever, so aligned with Together for Sustainability Pact and the Greenhouse Gas Protocol. But yeah, at the end of the day, we're not just asking for numbers. I think the main point here is for us to build partnerships that help suppliers and help us as well to unlock efficiencies and future-proof our operations. Yeah, over to you. Back to you, Kim.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Thiago. So let's get started with today's discussion. I will hand the floor to Pratik to start our discussion. Pratik?
Thank you so much, Kim, for the lovely introduction. And welcome, Thiago, for this webinar. Looking at the audience, I would really want to start right at the center of the topic. you rightly pointed out that these are just not the words, these are action points, and I really appreciate it for stating it through and through. So my first question to you, Thiago, is what are quantifiable return on investments have Unilever suppliers seen in investing their time, money, efforts in doing product carbon footprinting? I mean, whether do they have achieved some increased sales, some cost savings, or some faster contract awards from Unilever or any other customer?
Mhm. No, that's a great question. I think since our supplier climate program has only been in place for about 2 to 3 years, it's relatively early to quantify, I think, an ROI and in base of numbers, like hard numbers across the board. But what we're seeing is a clear shift in the quality of the conversations that we're having with the suppliers. And those that come to us with a credible and clear footprint data, and they're not only more prepared, but they're also creating more room for negotiation, innovation, and collaboration between us and the supplier. It allows us to move the agenda forward more quickly. And for instance, I think suppliers who are more transparent with their PCF data often move through the procurement processes and onboarding faster. And also, it's not just the data itself. I think it's the story behind it. And if a supplier can show us that they're measuring and tracking and learning and improving, that's what the transparency, that's what really builds trust, I think, between both organizations.
I really like that you're saying that you get some improvement. In the discussion, you touched upon transparency now,
Hmm.
and then it stuck with me because nowadays I see a lot of this discussion happening on LinkedIn about the quality of the data and the transparency of the data that you use. So do you have any particular case in mind where the transparency of your PCF results that your suppliers provided you help you to make a decision or a choice between the suppliers, or do you use them as one of the key decision making parameters in while procurement?
Yeah, we do have some examples, but we're still in the very early stages. I think that's the direction we're heading. And to be honest, I think we've only implemented this requirement for into the procurement processes for tenders and any type of negotiations just last year. So it's a very new process, even to the procurement community. So now when we go into a tender or a new quotation, for example, our program KPIs, and that depends on the supplier category, but the tender KPIs and the program KPIs will be measured, and there are inputs that we're asking for to bring to any contract board or to any negotiation. I won't be able to pinpoint any specific case just yet, but I think it's becoming a real differentiator between suppliers. It's no longer just the pricing. I think owning your footprint and showing that you're committed to transparency and also to improvement, it really gives suppliers an extra edge in these fields. Yeah.
Perfect. Then just a follow-up question. What you're now saying is actually uh, in your decision making, henceforth, having a really transparent, good quality product carbon footprint will be serving as a tipping point to make a decision. Is that so, or am I getting it correct?
No, it is a tipping point. I think the tipping point, it's not having specifically the product carbon footprint, but it's showing the intention. I think the willingness to share the methodology or the database that you used or the potential that you have to develop one product carbon footprint in the future. I think getting that transparent from the get-go is really, I think, the tipping point or the what makes or breaks a deal.
Perfect. Yeah, I really like the way you're sticking with the methodology here,
Yeah.
because we are also true believer that the methodology and the intention behind carbon footprinting is necessary.
Exactly. Very good insight, Thiago. I think from my part, I also found it very interesting. Now we're looking into like beyond the winning bid, right? It's not just the
Mhm.
pricing, it's about transparency as well, how to collaborate together. And how is that having those detailed PCF data streamlined your procurement cycles or reduce the evaluation delays?
Yeah, no, that's another important point. I think beyond winning bids, having a
Mm-hmm.
detailed PCF help us really to streamline procurement processes because it is embedded in everything that we do currently. So
Mm-hmm.
when suppliers come prepared and they have their own data ready, I think they skip a lot of the back and forth and move straight into planning and to the action. In one
Mm-hmm.
case, we had, for example, some home care suppliers, one of our business groups, they weren't part of the program itself. We weren't discussing climate with them, but they came with a big background and great solution to some of our biggest materials, and that already aligned with our PCF reporting framework, and we were able to onboard them much faster. And internally, footprint data also helped us, their footprint data helped us to identify where the hotspots are and where we to focus our efforts and land projects with them faster. So I think that's the key here because 2030 is just around the corner. We're really looking for those
Yeah.
types of projects that are able to deliver big reductions faster. So I think this is where it streamlines and makes everything more efficient.
Yeah, yeah, thanks. I think another question from my side is also a bit relevant to the procurement side is what is the major cost saving or efficiency opportunities that Unilever uncover internally by leveraging the supply footprint data?
Yeah, I think the biggest one, the most impactful areas that we've seen suppliers really come up to us and report cost savings as around energy used. So specifically switching
Mhm.
to renewable energy in their operations. When suppliers really start measuring their product level emissions, they really come to a conclusion that if they change their energy consumption source, it's a major hotspot where they can act quickly, and once they see that, they can act on it. So we have several suppliers making the shift to renewables, which not only reduce their carbon footprint, but also lead to lower energy bills, and that will lead to like more stable operational costs, which then can translate to conversion, like lower conversion costs that we can also benefit from. So it's a win-win in a multiple fronts. They reduce their emissions, we improve our our tracking, so our progress to our targets. They improve their margins, and for us, I think it shows that suppliers are aligned to our climate goals, and they're helping. We're helping them, and we're helping them to decarbonize the value chain in itself.
Thanks. I think this also answered my question, the next one as well, because I was thinking, how do those insights translate into those actions? But you just take some example of those practical actions that from both sides, right? Not only Unilever, but that also benefits to the supplier as well.
Yeah, and
I think,
and sometimes, no, just to complement, I think sometimes it's not
you
only us going to them, it's also suppliers coming to us with fresh ideas and an opportunity for innovations.
yeah,
And in several cases, it can lead to like a full-on project within the company for changing formulations or to changing packaging to lower carbon alternatives. And we've seen that most value from this program is in that collaboration, and I think that's the way forward because it's a pre-competitive agenda for everybody.
thank you.
It was nice question actually, Kim, because what I want to stress and ask one more question, Thiago, in just continuation. What you mentioned is about changing the internal process based on the data what you get from PCFs. Does Unilever see it as an investment or as a cost center to make the changes in the process internally?
No, it's definitely an investment to make the changes in the processes. It's an investment. It's something that some of the internal teams have been working on, and we were working on to deploy. So it takes some training, it takes some alignment, it takes some, I think internal alignment, which is it takes the time from everybody, but it's definitely an investment, and it's takes us to where we want to be in the future. So it it should start small and then build from there.
I really appreciate that you're saying it as an investment and not a cost center, because
Yep.
that's the viewpoint we need from the industry henceforth if we want to match our targets for carbon reduction. Now, coming up to the point of the quality and the transparency, which I touched upon earlier, what all minimum data quality or the level of granularity you expect if someone gives you the PCF reports to you? I mean, you are definitely a packed conformant organization,
Hmm.
so I would like to know the minimum granularity you expect from the PCF reports.
Yep. Yeah. From our standpoint, I think we're looking for cradle to gate PCF that follows the recognized standards like the WBCSD Pact or other compatible methodologies. But I think we're also realistic, and if a supplier is just starting out, we're happy to work with some level of estimates, or as long as they're transparent and well documented, it's something that we can take as inputs and work with it.
Yes.
Maybe a question from my side, Pratik, to you that, for suppliers who are just getting started, right? I mean, probably have no idea where to get started. Which those three data points should they prioritize collecting first?
Nice question, Kim. Actually, I want to follow up with the Thiago. The way he said, what matters is the intention. And as
Yep.
Unilever is actually boosting up the intention of the suppliers, just to start, I think the first and foremost quality, what I would say, is the intention to calculate your product carbon footprints. And
Hmm.
then to go for the calculation, I think the first thing what matters is actually bill of the materials, what goes in making your product. One should understand that clearly. Then second, what are your energy extensive processes in the, or what is the energy consumption, and then what are the transports and the wastes that you generate during the processes. If you have a fair understanding of all of this, the requirements like Unilever, well, you have to go from cradle to gate, you can easily meet those requirements, because then you don't want to know what happens after it passes from your gate to Unilever in the use and end of life phase, which typically is difficult in LCS, but the information what Unilever wants is very easy to deliver.
Great.
Nice. Now, this is okay to say it, like that example like where we say it is easy to deliver and do this. Uh, I want to know, do you have any quick start approach in Unilever? Like, for example, I'm a supplier, I'm just starting now, and I want to get into your programs or something. How does that work in a quick start approach for PCF?
I think if you want to, Unilever, we reached out to get the program rolling last year, for example. So we reached out to the 300 suppliers that have the most materiality in terms of emissions, in terms of volumes and spend. So it was a proactive approach from our end. But we've seen a few, but not many, suppliers come to us requesting to take part in this, which is always great. But I think my advice will always be to just start. So don't don't wait for a full LCA or the perfect data to be there. I think start with one product or start with one site. For the least mature suppliers, we really usually ask them to start calculating the emissions at site level, not really at product level. And the goal is to begin the journey and not to get everything right from day one. We, I think it's important to, again, just get started. We can use secondary data whenever it's needed. That's completely acceptable as well in the early stages, as long as you're transparent and documenting everything. What matters is really showing intention, as I said, and building the momentum. Don't let that drop. So we also point suppliers to tools like Ecochain, for example, that are incredibly resourceful. They can help suppliers to gather data for the inputs and generate a PCF really quickly if you think about it. So once you have the first footprint for the first materials, and you can start identifying where the hotspots are, and you can really focus your time and energy and effort in where you can make the biggest difference. So the general advice, it's just start and get in touch with us if we're on the same journey.
Nice. If I summarize what you're saying, that you're saying that if a supplier starts small,
Hmm.
now with some assumptions or some backup data for their calculations, and if those results are backed up by really good documented assumptions and the considerations of system boundary of LC and everything,
Yeah.
it already meets the Unilever's audit requirements for the PCF. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think even a rough estimate, when we're backed by a credible source, or you have that in documented and you have a plan to improve, that can open doors and already start building trust.
Really nice. I appreciate this because that actually lowers the barrier to calculate and it builds the intent to calculate
Hmm.
the product carbon footprints. Nice. I mean, we have to start. That's what
Yeah.
I think Unilever is focusing on.
No, absolutely. We had some suppliers last year as well that they were not able or not ready to share PCF data just yet at the stage that we were requesting. But they had a plan and intention to share it in 2025, and we're already in touch with them again this year, and it's ready. Even if it's not, they don't have every PCF for every material that we're requesting. They already have a plan for the top emitting items, and that's where we can start to have the conversation.
Nice. Very well. Uh, then coming up to actually the digital platforms and the things like that, where have you seen the most value is added? Like, is it the automated data ingestion, impact hotspot analysis, or continuous monitoring? From your perspective, from as a procurement, where do you see if a suppliers give you PCFs, the maximum impact is? You just can you highlight?
Mm, I think it is in this like full on support and hold handing. I think that's where the value is. But digital platforms like EcoChain are absolutely key to this journey. I think they help suppliers to move from spreadsheets and like completely scattered data to a well-structured and scalable reporting aligned with like international standards like PAC, which we mentioned. What's been really encouraging is that it's actually last year, for example, during the supplier climate program, it was the best performing category that we had. We have very few suppliers compared to the other categories, but the ones that worked with EcoChain to develop PCF saw really we saw a great improvement in the quality of the conversations. So suppliers who had never done a footprinting before suddenly were able to calculate product level data, identify hotspots, and also start taking action where it matters, all within a matter of weeks. Like we started working in, I would say from May to September. That's the window that we had to work with these suppliers. And the feedback we received was very positive. We've clearly seen them step up their climate knowledge really during this time frame. And it wasn't just about reporting the number. I think it was more about them understanding the impact and where really to use those insights and to generate more ideas and more collaboration to the full potential. I think that's where the value is for the platforms itself. They just don't help you tick a box. They help you unlock like these efficiencies and unlock more strategic partners, I think.
Yeah, but thank you, Thiago. I think that is also something I like to add, like what I was about to ask you, that what kind of role do you see the digital platform like Ecochain is playing to accelerate the supplier from just minimum viable to the best in class of PCM maturity? Actually, there's a lot of also educational resources to go along way with our supply with your suppliers as well. I have a follow-up question according to this one. So where have you seen the most the value add is like is the automated data ingestion or its impact to hotspot analysis or continuous monitoring in this process?
I would say both. The hotspots analysis is critical for us because
Mm-hmm.
it really, I think, designs the agenda that we want to take forward. But what makes it easier for suppliers to understand and to also start working is the data ingestion and data gathering modeling that you have within EcoChain. That's very structured, and one of the feedback that we received from one of the suppliers last year is that it helped them move through their organization better.
Mm-hmm.
Like they could understand where the information was flowing, who to ask for what information. So it was like a deep dive within your own organization when you have to gather that much data to put into a PCF building, and you build that capability within your own organization. So I think it's so the data gathering ingestion bit is really important. I think it's a really advantage, but also the hotspot analysis, which is the result and where you will focus your efforts from there on out.
Yeah, right. Thank you.
It's a nice discussion, Tiago. But now let's come to a realistic scenario, which I want to
Mm-hmm.
ask you about, which we get often asked.
Mhm.
Imagine I'm just a small supplier in this big ocean. Okay. You must be having suppliers ranging from different backgrounds, small, medium, large, enterprise, everything. It is very easy for industries which are in the large or enterprise organizations to invest their money and get the results done because they have those sort of resources.
Mhm.
In my case, if I am just a small entity in that big fish, and now I have to do the product carbon footprint analysis because my customers like Unilever are asking me to do it. Is there any initiative from Unilever to make this playing field, you know, same for both, although they are the small suppliers or big enterprises? Do you support the small suppliers, by some trainings or something to get them a level field to play?
Yeah, no, that's such an important question. We, as we're scaling our supplier climate program, uh, the supplier base that we encounter is very diverse. Like all the categories, there are only three categories, but the knowledge and maturity for each one of the suppliers vary all across the board. So it's not all suppliers that have the same resources and technical capability or access to sustainability expertise. And we've made it from the get-go for this program a priority to meet suppliers where they are in their journey. And what we do expect from all categories, though, is transparency, consistency, and I think a willingness to engage, because there are lots of suppliers out of the 300 that are also very unresponsive during all of this. So I think the willingness to engage is really important. We are coming up with some that's still under development for this year, but we are coming up with some green financing opportunities as well for suppliers who will meet targets within the program, and these are kind of the I think the unlock that we need to get more suppliers on board and to get more people on the same journey.
I really appreciate your efforts. I mean, this is one of the critical part where I think we need to focus and say, okay, we are helping you out if you have the intent.
Hmm.
Do it.
Yeah.
I really appreciate this approach.
Maybe a question from my side to Pratik. So is there, in that sense, are there any support programs or resources that you've offered to help smaller suppliers to improve their PCF reporting?
Definitely. So We are not as big as Unilever to do a green financing for most of them, but what we have done in our capacity is we have developed a completely free programs for someone who has intent to do a product carbon footprint analysis. So you will get a detailed free training for your product. So that's what something we call the product specific training. We will model first product from your company, and then we will show you what are the different stages. We will handhold you throughout the journey, right from gathering the data. We have our own spreadsheets which we will send you across, and then you can go through them. Then we will teach you what are different LCA stages are, how do we account it. And as Thiago mentioned earlier, that they need specific databases, secondary data, primary data. What are those differences? They're like niche differences. So we will handhold you. And then the key important step in LCA is hotspot analysis and interpretations. So towards the end, we will also help you in making that hotspot analysis and interpreting. So what happens is performing the life cycle assessment is one part, but then interpreting those results and acting on it is actually important part of the analysis as well. And as EcoChain, we actually help suppliers to understand their results and then interpret them. And through that, they can do a lot of things, refurbish their product or reinvent the process through which their product goes through. And in the end, we also help customers to verify their first product, so they can claim that okay, what numbers they have got are really solid and they're backed up by right assumptions and calculations. So we have in-house complete program to support companies.
Thank you, Pratik. I think to summarize what you just said is that EcoChain is not just for modeling the data, collecting the data, just not only the input part, but actually the output will also help you to do analysis, also quality assurance, etc. And then together as a whole package is a full knowledge full and to deliver to the suppliers. All right, I think now we're also coming up to the end of the questions here in this discussion. I also want to give everybody a reminder here. If you're listening so far, you have any questions, please don't hesitate to put into the Q&A in this question box. My last question maybe to both of you, looking ahead, so one action that you will urge every supplier to take in the next 6 months to stay ahead of the regulation, demands, and customer expectations around PCF?
Diego, you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. So if I had to choose one action, it would be to start now and start measuring, even if it's just one product, one material, one site. I think it's important to take the first step. And the landscape, as you mentioned, with the regulatory changes are really changing. It's really changing really fast, and regulations are tightening. And customers like Unilever, for example, are demanding more transparency. So suppliers who begin now and get prepared, they're more competitive and they're more trusted in this field itself. And remember, you don't have to do it alone. I think you can lean on platforms like EcoChain. And the most important thing is to show intent and transparency and to build the momentum. Because in this space, I think really showing progress matters more than perfection. So it's important that we start moving.
That was a complete answer, Tiago. Apart from that, just one point where what I need to add here is if you want to start in say next 6 months, I would suggest start looking at your data, because to perform LCA from an expert point of view, what is the critical step is to understand your data. Most often, the data is not at a single place, so it's spread across your organization. You don't have a uniform stakeholders or owners of that data. And then I said, if you want to look in the 6 months of time, if you want to deliver a good product carbon footprint, the first thing I would like to focus on is the data, what we have in house and what we should look for.
All right. Well, thank you both. I think that's very insightful in this end of this question. Okay, I think we'll go to the Q&A session. I have got some couple of questions coming up in this Q&A box. Let me just check it out. First question, let me see. Okay. For reductions, you now focus on energy emissions. What about materials themselves, renewable ingredients? I think maybe both can answer this question. Again, for reductions, you now focus on energy emissions. What about materials themselves, renewable ingredients?
Yeah, that is the another strategy definitely. So energy reduction is one part, but the product can be undergo eco design where we can look at
Mhm.
the material itself if we can compensate it with renewable materials and think. Very nice thinking.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's the different approaches. We have both across the board, and we're seeing not even just changing the material can like to a lower carbon alternative, but also changing the feedstock, the material to a lower carbon one. You don't always have to change the specification of what you're using, but the source for that material can also make a big change because that's the scope 3 for the supplier. So that's also very valid, and that's where we can see a lot of reductions coming through as well.
All right. Thank you both. And another question to Thiago. Does every Unilever product has a PCF document?
Does every Unilever product? No, no, absolutely not. I think, well, for a product it's Unilever, we are starting to calculate sale for our own customers as well, but we're not at the stage to share every PCF for all of our product as well. So it's an ongoing journey with our own internal science team for them to start calculating our own products to our customers as well.
Great. Great, thank you. And we also have other people are asking if this session will be recorded and sent to you. Yes, so we will do that. In case if someone dropped out, don't worry, we will complete this recording and then send it to your inbox. We also have other questions coming in. Do I always need to verify my PCF claims? Can I claim that my product is better in environmental performance based on my calculations alone? Maybe Pratik, you have insight
Yeah,
on this one?
yeah. It is always recommended to have a third party verification of your product carbon footprint. That gives you a sense of confidence that the calculations that what you have performed are good and they are solid. Now for the next part, Kim, the question was, I think, can they claim their product is better in environmental performance
Mhm.
based on the calculations alone? Unfortunately, no. So to make any competitive claim that my product is X% better in the carbon number compared to others, what you have to go through is a committee or the panel review consisting of three different independent reviewers as per the ISO norms. And if in that panel review it has been stated that yes, this product is indeed better by X percentage compared to the competitors, then only you can make any competitive claims out of the PCF analysis.
Right. Very detailed. Thank you, Pratik. Well, more and more questions coming in. Very good. Let me take this one. To inform consumers on PCF, does Unilever intend to provide cradle to consumption PCF labeling on products?
Labeling on product, it's not a discussion we're currently having. I think it'll be something for the future, but currently not under scope, no.
Okay, good. There's one more to Thiago again.
Mhm.
Is Unilever able to pass on the additional cost of PCF reduction further downstream?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah. Is Unilever able to pass on the additional cost of PCF reduction further downstream?
If Unilever is capable further
Is it able
downstream,
to pass on the additional cost on the PCF reduction further downstream?
I think what it
well,
means is about the carbon credits, Thiago.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, so the carbon credits bit, if that what's the question is asking, it's something that we're currently not really looking into. It's Unilever has the near-term target to 2030, and the strategy there is really to focus on reductions and where we can act now in this decade for reducing emissions rather than
Hmm.
to work with carbon credits at this stage. But it's something that will be evaluated, yes, as we get closer to the 2030 target.
Right. Thank you. This is a question I think more relevant also for both from Pratik and also Thiago. Which product range does Unilever use EcoChain for? Is it food, cosmetics, or household chemicals?
Well, for us, it's all of our business
Yeah.
groups, right? We have home care, personal care, foods business, and also beauty and well-being. And EcoChain was used in the past couple of years to cover all of these business groups. So it's nothing specific.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's sector agnostic, I would say.
Yep.
Does Unilever intend to populate the CO2 attribute on GS1?
What's the
Yeah,
GS1? Sorry.
it's a
Yeah,
data
what is
format structure backed up something similar to pact.
Mhm.
So they are
Mhm.
actually asking if Unilever is trying to get it into GS1 structure as well.
I am
Or
not
do-
aware right now, but I think we can check that and revert later.
Right. Okay. The current focus is on emissions. How are you thinking about trade-offs for other impact areas like water?
Right,
It's a good
water.
question.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's we are at Unilever. We used to have a bunch of different sustainability targets, and I think we're focusing on very key for our near-term targets in 2030, which is climate, plastics, livelihoods, and other. There was a fourth one as well, and yeah, regenerative agriculture. So within the Regen Ag programs, we are focusing on the water bit, but it's a subcategory from one of our top priorities. But yes, we're looking as a company to these four main pillars as our sustainability goals.
All right. I think there's one question for Pratik. What is the difference between doing my PCF calculation in-house versus hiring a consultant in terms of expenditure from your
uh,
experience?
it's actually a tricky question to answer, but I'll try my best. What happens is if you hire it is just not about the economics. One should understand. It is also about the knowledge and the information that you get. It's about the value proposition, and it's just not about the cost. So what happens is, in terms of expenditure, if I look at the cost wise, doing LCA in house is always cheaper compared to hiring an external party, because we have some examples where we could see the cost was dropped down from thousands to tens, or in some cases even a very small number. Like for example, for one of the clients we could do it as merely as like 40 euros per LCA or something. So where the external consultants may ask you between somewhere between 2000 to 3000 per LCA analysis or something. So that's the expenditure different, but what one should actually focus on is the value proposition, because the external party
Hmm.
will just give you the report number and then they will say tata bye bye. What happens is when you own that data and you do small experiments with that data, you can actually tweak it to get your product more and more sustainable. As Thiago was mentioning, they are now only looking at one sector, but they are planning to expand in other sectors. So there might be a chance that your product now is better at CO2 but worse at water consumption. And if you outsource all your data to external party, you might not be able to get all of those insights. So it's always cheaper to have in-house PCF calculations.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Thank you. There's another one, I think, to Thiago. Unilever made all the efforts to get the suppliers trained and calculate the PCFs. What steps are you taking to help the suppliers reduce their footprint? And you can choose an alternative supplier for Unilever, but now, and how will that particular supplier be empowered?
Yeah, so through the supplier climate program, we onboard the suppliers and really, again, try to meet them where they are in their journey. So we provide tools and access to different sorts of trainings depending on your climate maturity. And once so for each one of the categories of suppliers, we had different, I think, incentives and different strategies to really get them to start reducing and move that agenda forward. We are, again, as I said, I think we're looking into green financing, starting with specific markets and partnerships with banks. And we're also, I think, again, whenever we're starting a new tender, if you're delivering all those KPIs for that program within your own category, that's already an edge and an advantage that a supplier will have within our own tenders and quotation processes.
Yep. Thank you. I think for the time, let me see if there are more questions. Otherwise, I will take this to the last one. What is the difference between LCA and PCF? Can I just convert my PCF result to LCA if it's required in the future? Maybe Pratik, you have a specific detailed answer on this one.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say this too technical, but I understand why the audience asked that.
Yeah, it's actually a nice question to ask, and we get this question very frequently in our customer discussions. That is mainly because of the ambiguity of the terms. So one thing we should understand is that LCA is the methodology. It is life cycle assessment methodology by which you understand the impacts that your product generate. And one of those impacts is actually product carbon footprint. And then there are environmental footprints in which you get the impact across 15 or 19 plus impact categories, depending on the method that you use. Now the question is, can I interchange those results? The answer is not very straightforward, and I will tell you why. What happens is, if you calculate your PCF in the beginning with the primary data what you get from your suppliers or from your sources or your measurement, then most probably it is the case that you get a single unified number. For example, emissions are kgs of CO2 per kgs of your product. Now, when you want to translate that number completely into an environmental footprint where it's a spread across different impact categories, if that number has come from your primary source, that transformation is difficult. Whereas if you have chosen a secondary source of a data, for example, eco-invent data sets or any data sets, then those data sets have that impact across those 15 or 19 plus categories. So if you are starting from PCF and then want to go to say 15 or 19 plus impact categories with lot of primary data involved, it is challenging. On the contrary, if someone actually starts with the complete environmental profile of their product and then wants to switch to PCF, it is very straightforward. I hope I answered that question correctly.
Yeah, definitely in a good detail. So thank you. Thank you, Pratik. All right, I want to start to close down of the questions. Okay, I just want to make sure there's no questions left. Okay, I think the time is almost to the end of our discussion now. I want to thank you all for joining this insightful conversation and share your thoughts and questions with us. Thank you, Pratik and Thiago. Great to have you both joining us today. And if you have any questions or needs about how to get started with your PCF or LCA journey, or you are already practicing this path, looking for a way to optimize it, you can contact us through this QR code here. And also feel free to connect with Thiago here to share more insight in this topic. So thank you all, and we wish you the best of the rest of your day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.